Ladies and gents, good morning. Welcome to the stand-up ceremony for Task Force Wolverine. The leadership present here today represents 349 soldiers from across the Canadian Army who have joined us here in Petawawa to prepare for pre-deployment training as we stand up the battle group to deploy on Roto 15. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce the Task Force Commander, Lieutenant Colonel Eno Kirchhoff.
Thanks, Ed. Morning, everybody. And good morning to the folks that are going to be watching on Facebook later. When I took over the Dragoons a little over 3 months ago, I made my number one priority building our cohesive team. In a COVID environment, that can be quite the challenge. Bringing in a team from across the brigade and across the Army deepens that challenge even more. But I'm very excited to have this group together. We're bringing a series of experiences and different backgrounds that will allow us to represent our regiments, our brigade, and the Canadian Army quite well. So what is Task Force Wolverine? Canada, as a framework nation, provides the command and the support structure to build the combat power around. We integrate 9 nations into a brigade formed by a 10th nation. There's a lot of coordination that it takes to make that work, but it starts with having a common understanding of what we each bring to the fight. Our task is to set those conditions now, building that team so that when we deploy, we are ready to take on those additional enablers and attachments, ready to fight tonight if required, and continue to train in that environment overseas. We chose the Wolverine because of the fearsome reputation that it's got as a defender, the ability that it has to take on aggressors much larger than its size, the reputation that it's got for never letting go of an adversary. We're looking forward to having that type of attitude within our battle group, fostering that amongst our international partners, and continuing the development work that the 2RCR battle group has begun. When you look at our battle group symbol, you're going to see a Wolverine challenging its aggressor. You're going to see the colors blue for NATO, red for Latvia, where we're going to deploy, and the NATO star. What you won't see are regimental symbols or Canadian symbols, because the task force, the battle group, is bigger than any one of our regiments. It's bigger than the nation that we're providing, that we're representing as the framework nation. It's meant to be inclusive of all of those attachments as we build this team. What we're going to do over the next 9 months here in Canada, the training that's happening with our partner allies overseas, and culminating in our deployment to Latvia, that's going to be a reflection on our regiments, on our backgrounds, on our nations, but really what it comes down to is it's a reflection on NATO and the alliance as a whole. The Recce Party, some of us here today were part of that Recce Party, got back 2 weeks ago from Latvia. We had a chance to visit with Lieutenant Colonel Norton and RSM Anderson, and talking with both the command team as well as the national representatives from each of the supporting nations, and get a really good sense of where they are in their training, to observe some of the training that they were conducting in their NATO validation that was done at the end of their exercise. And it was fantastic to see the work that they've been doing. They're setting a very high bar for us in terms of the training level. We've got a very compressed training schedule back here to get to that level, but we learned a lot of lessons during that trip that we can apply so that we can improve our training. We arrive on the ground ready to roll. What I'd ask is that each of you take a look at the current battle group's Facebook site to get an idea of what it is that they're doing, get a sense of the environment that they're operating in and the camaraderie that they've fostered amongst the nations. That Facebook site is a fantastic window into the types of activities that they're doing, and we're going to continue that when we get over there. That's an important part of messaging for NATO, but it's also our way to talk to our families back home about what it is that we're doing. So check out that Facebook site. There's a lot of great videos on there, and part of the messages that we want to be able to send are contained there. The team you see here is representative of the combat power that we're going to have from the Canadian contingent alone, but before we departed and continued on with our training, I wanted to give a chance to each of the elements represented here to talk about what each of you bring to the fight. What is it about your subunit that you're going to bring to Task Force Wolverine that makes you unique, different, special, and part of what's going to be a very challenging organization, but a strong representation of what Canada has. So we'll start with the battle group headquarters first and work our way down the line.
Morning, sir. Morning, Wolverines. My name is Major Dustin Sister, and I am the Chief of Staff for Task Force Wolverine. What's really neat about the headquarters and the DFP fire is that we are a complete international headquarters staff. We have over 80 staff in this headquarters. So that represents the diversity, and as well, it represents the NATO elements, the whole of NATO efforts in Latvia. So we're looking forward to that challenge. This is my great introduction. I'm going to introduce a small representation of the headquarters staff here. So the officer here, Megger, with me today, Chief Fellow, Major Joe. We have our IA rep, Captain Warner, and we have our public affairs officer, Lieutenant Roto. Sir.
Thanks. Bravo Company.
Morning, Wolverines. I'm Major Nick Carter. I'll work with the DFP, but not the company. Here I have my third major is Ted. My QIC, strong views, and our CPU. What we bring to the fight, we bring 139 very medium aggressive infantry soldiers and officers ready, closely with to destroy the area. We're ready to train with our multinational counterparts and work together, form a strong cohesive team.
Thanks. Combat Support Company.
Yes, sir. Wolverine, Major China Duncan, Ocean Combat Support, represented in the room at ICOIC. Lieutenant Major. And then my CPO. Like the battle group headquarters, we're largely a multinational company here, and we're comprised of an ISR platoon formed from largely from the RCD with direct section from one RCR and a sniper detachment. Also within the company, we will have an Italian record platoon as well as DOD platoon. So largely forming and representing the task force through our multinational
Thanks, man.
Sir. Major Brian Summers, OC Viper Company, which is the combat support company, service support company that's overseas. My MWO is MWOP. My QIC is Captain Major, and my CQ is Mormon. So what we provide to the fight. So although we're deploying with less than 80 personnel from Canada, and none of the equipment that we'll see overseas, we'll be integrating once we get overseas with our multinational components. So for us, it'll be the SETI Nation NSCs and the Canadian NSC. During exercise, when we're overseas, you'll see us balloon to a size of over 200 personnel and over 70 vehicles. So it's quite a large organization, a lot of integration that needs to happen throughout the pre-deployment training, but also while we're overseas. So, Wolverine.
Thanks.
Now I'm going to turn the floor over to the Battle Group Sergeant Major.
Sure. Good morning, Wolverine. It's an honor for me to be here this morning, and I feel very privileged to be your Task Force Sergeant Major. I've been appointed as the 49th Regimental Sergeant Major of the Royal Canadian Dragoons a month ago, and for this reason, I would like to thank our Brigade Sergeant Major, Chief Warrant Officer Lehman, for all the work, all the time that they put into it with the CO to build that team that we're going to work for the next 9 months together. I've seen new people this week. I've seen new people again this morning. It's very exciting to see that task force growing up. We'll break the ice next week on the CACs, and I'm looking forward to work with all of you. please, if you want or need to talk to me, feel free to come. I'm a very easy person to talk with, and looking forward to work with you. Sir.
All right. As the Task Force Sergeant Major said, there's a lot of work ahead. We've got a very compressed training schedule. It begins with our CACs. It begins with getting to know one another and starting that relationship building now. So we've got a lot of work ahead of us over the next few weeks to get through these exercises, building that cohesive team. So let's get to work. Thanks, everybody.